Hey, how are you? What's going on? Another day, another live stream. I'm trying to figure this out. Let me know if you guys can hear me or not, and what you think about this. Um, my question today is how much should an Uber driver make? Not how much could or can they make, or how much do they make, or potential or anything like that. This is more of a moral question. David, hey, there you go. I see you there. I'm going to try to do my best to. This is not. Got a little soda. All right, so let me see if I can type a message in here. We don't have Uber Pro in Jamaica, but you got nice weather and you're in Jamaica, so that's not too bad. What's going on, Wiz? All right, so how much should an Uber driver make? That's the question I'm asking everybody here. Um, what's up? All right, Jeffrey, down in Tampa. Boy, all you warm weather people. David, where are you at? When you enter the chat, let me know where you're at, what you're driving. If you're an Uber driver, let's hear it. I'm happy. Okay, David says, I'm happy if I make $1 per mile in South Carolina. We have a cheap cost of living, right? Columbia, South Carolina. All right, but David, was anybody else out there in the chat? The question isn't how much do you want to make or how much could you make or anything like that. This is how much should you make. Let me give you some context here for how much should you make as a driver. I think a lot of society looks at Uber drivers as kind of like low wage, minimum wage jobs. Like this. Most humans, most Americans at least, get a driver's license and can drive a car. So we look at this gig as a very simple gig. You have a car, you turn the app on, and you go out and you make some money. But what other minimum wage, low wage jobs are there? There are McDonald's workers, fast food. Excuse me. so, so let's think about it from like a moral perspective. Do we want? Let's compare and contrast. Do we want low wage, minimum wage 20 somethings out there racing around in their Honda Civics, broken down, driving Uber? Or do we want a professional class of a little bit higher wage drivers out there making money? Do you understand what I'm saying? FYI, my stream keeps pausing. That could be, is that a me mic thing or is that anybody else? Let me know if the stream is pausing, everybody. So, okay. Do you understand the difference between should and can or do you make? And let me know if the stream is pausing still. The stream is fine from your end. All right, David. All right, so maybe Mike, it's on you. Um, Now, okay, so Mike, David, you answered the question pretty good here. You're like, should depends on the vehicle, quality of the driver, and cost of living, and other facts. See, I still think David. I'm gonna push back just a little bit here, not like you're doing anything wrong per se, but like what I'm saying is like societal speaking. Do we want really low wage drivers out there? Let me give you like an analogy. How much should an airline pilot make? Do we want airline pilots making the bare minimum, struggling to live, working super crazy hours, flying us around in an airplane that could crash? Is that good for society? Uh, that's the question I guess I'm trying to get to. This is like a moral question. So yeah, some drivers are out there making minimum wage or even less than minimum wage, and some Uber drivers are out there earning a lot of money. I tell you that story about a guy who sent me his W-2s and it totaled up to like 1.4 million over the last 6 years between Uber and Lyft. It was a lot of money. So we're not talking about how to make the most amount of money or what could we make, but there you go, David. Now you're talking. This is what I like. David says the median household income in South Carolina is approximately 72,000 to 76,000. Okay. So David, you're making the case that Uber drivers should make closer to the median. And I think that's the point I'm getting to is like if the pay is so low that we basically have people risking safety between the quality of their car, driving extremely long hours to get close to that 70 something thousand dollar. Is it good for society to have this low wage person out there risking safety of the passengers and then the rest of the drivers on the road to try to make barely minimum wage? So that's should. And then that's the low end. We're talking about the low end of what a driver should make. But let's talk about the high end. Is it should drivers make 150,000 or a quarter million dollars a year? And I'm using the word make, not how much you generate in revenue per mile or anything like that. I'm saying after all your expenses, taxes, and everything else, you come home and you ha- d- should should drivers make enough to feed a family, or is it just a gig? Let me go look over here in the chat while you guys kind of do that. So you understand the question. Okay. Mike says, I don't think it's a moral issue. You get what you earn. This requires more than sitting around taking minimum pay trips. Right. But I'm just talking about drivers in general, Mike. Do you want, as a paying citizen, tax paying citizen, drivers on your streets that are barely able to survive? Um, and I think let's take a look at another way. Should Uber drivers who drive passengers make more money than drivers or Instacart shoppers or delivery people? Now I do it both. I don't do Instacart, but I've done shopping through Uber Eats and I've done delivery and I've done passenger delivery. This is I think Mike, you say it's not a moral question, but I think it is. And there's a problem with this too. Like if drivers make minimum wage, then rides are really cheap and that's good for society to some extent. But if drivers were making a quarter million dollars a year on the high end, then all we're doing is incentivizing Waymo, Robotaxi, and all them to come into our markets. So that's why it's a really interesting question. And I wanted to get feedback. So should make as least as much as pizza delivery. Now, Michael, let's think about this here for a second. Michael says that Uber drivers should make at least as much as pizza delivery. Michael, or any other driver, if we are Uber drivers and we have passengers in our car, our cargo, humans, people are much, much more valuable than pizza. Like if we get in a car wreck, there should be a premium payment for transporting people safely. So, yeah, we should make at least as much as pizza, but probably more. Let's take a look what we got here. David says, I think it depends on how much you put into it. I think I should be able to turn the app on as long as it's busy and make an active hour equal to median income. I see. I like David the way you're kind of thinking about it. RX, hey, what's going on? He says drivers should make at least 35 an hour. That translates to about 40,000 a year after expenses. Yeah, that's good. I'm kind of down with that. Yeah, he goes. Mike says, "Well, naturally, if they can barely survive, then it becomes a safety issue." That's true. Michael says, "Yes, that's true." Here, Roxy, there she is. Hey, Roxy, San Antonio representing. Are you ready? I'm just parked down the street. I didn't want to be late. I am. This chat is live, Roxy, and so what I'm asking is not how much can an Uber driver make, not how much do Uber drivers make, not how much the potential. I'm asking kind of an ethical, moral question. How much should an Uber driver make? I'm using the word Uber driver because that's what I do. But think about how about shuttle bus drivers, school bus drivers, school bus drivers? Should Uber drivers and school bus drivers make more money because we're transporting precious cargo, especially like a school bus driver? You know what I mean? Oh, did you text? You sent us your message. Roxy, I'm ready. Just park down the street. I don't want to be late. Are you doing a reservation, Roxy? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, should. What's the moral dilemma? See, the reason why this question's interesting to me is that the apps, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, or whatever, they're on a race to the bottom. They want to pay drivers as little as possible. And that's logical. That's logical. That's understandable why a business would want to do that. I want to get offended by it, but the truth is when I go into a restaurant or I go someplace else to go eat, I don't really care how much other people make. I want to pay for the food as cheap as possible. I want the things that I purchase to be cheap as possible as a consumer. So I understand why consumers and businesses do this. But there is a dilemma and a problem that if a job of last resort to some extent, gig work, basically, if you lose your job or something happens, people say, "Well, I'm going to be go be an Uber driver." Do we want drivers, people driving multi-thousand, 2,000, 3,000 pound vehicles late at night, working 10, 12 hours to barely make minimum wage, to not even cover their bills? Do we want that as a society out there and about? Do we want people to go, should I go work at McDonald's or be an Uber driver? Like those 2 are comparable. Should they be comparable? Let's take a look at the chat here. David says, I don't want to have to guess. The next ride should be, he'd like it to be a good rider for the driver. Oops, wrong person. Okay, let's see here. Alex, what's going on? Alex says, I think with anything, it's that you can make enough money to cover your costs and have a wide enough margin that you consider for a fulfilling life. Alex, I think you're right. Alex, you make a really, really good point. Do we want humans working almost any job, barely able to scrape by? Now, I'm not advocating for a minimum wage for government or anything else like that. I'm just asking a personal question. Do we want to be a society where humans, when they go out there and work, they're barely able to make ends meet? And then what are some solutions to this too, by the way? Let's see here. Jeffrey, what's going on? Jeffrey, lunchtime over here. Lunchtime overtime to get back online. I'll be in Hamilton in mid-June. We need to get coffee. Yeah, anytime, Jeffrey. You're gonna be in Hamilton, huh? That's right down the road from me. David, okay. Yeah, here I am asking this question. What should Uber drivers make? Um, okay. David, you asked me what do I think Uber drivers should make? Well, I think Uber driving, taxi driving, shuttle bus driving, driving a school bus, anytime humans are driving passengers for pay in a vehicle, they should be paid more than the median wage, more than. And the reason why I think now it's easy for me to say I'm a driver, right? So, but let's say the median household income or the median wage is like $45,000. I think that this profession should be paid more than $45,000 a year. And that assumes you're working 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, something like that. And this is after your expenses, after you pay for the cost of your vehicle and things like that. I think driving a car is a very serious thing, especially driving a car with passengers. We tend to dismiss it because we all have cars and we all drive or whatever. But licensing and driving a vehicle, should not be taken lightly. And because these apps are on a race to the bottom, these apps are trying to pay drivers as little as possible, get more drivers to sign up. Drivers, to include myself, are taking risks because so for example, the fare is fixed. We get a fixed rate for how much we're going to get paid. Like, I'm gonna earn $10 on this trip. I'm incentivized to go as fast as possible. Actually, literally drive as fast as possible, which is unsafe. Another thing I think about when it comes to safety is like, boy, I can make really good money driving between like 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. I can make really good money also driving at 4 p.m. Or 3 p.m. to like 6 p.m. I can also make really good money driving like 8 p.m. to like 10 p.m. Now, none of those hours match up. And so I've done it where I've gone to go Uber drive where I drive for 2 or 3 hours, then I got a Tesla so I can sleep in the Tesla. I got like a little bed back there. I'll sleep in the Tesla, then I'll get up, clean the carpet, then I'll go drive again, then I'll drive again. And that's not a healthy way to live, periodically driving to maximize my income to barely make 30, 40, sometimes $50 an hour before expenses. So I think that that's kind of where I'm getting at. Let me jump into the chat and see what everybody else is talking about here. Um, Michael says, I've developed a profitable way to make it work without directly stating how I do this. I would just say that to confirm, Uber's idea of moral is going to be waiting a long time. That's correct. I'm not trying to fix Uber here by any stretch. Um, who inspects? He says Uber driving is a service business driven by the marketplace. We can't assess a wage without considering what the market will pay. How much should a rider pay getting home last night? Jabari says the U.S. median income is 83,000. Is it really? Thank you so much for being a member of the channel too. I really appreciate it. RX says for drivers to be able to live, they need to be able to drive at least 80 hours per week in my area. That's a huge safety area issue, no doubt. No kidding. Oh man. And even with that, can't even make enough to pay for health insurance. That's really not good. See, that's my point. Drivers are making so little they can't afford to make ends meet. And that's a huge safety issue. It's different than like if you're working at McDonald's. If you work at McDonald's, it's not really a safety issue. I mean, it's your own personal safety, but you're not potentially hurting other people on the road or even the passengers in your car being risky. Um, Alex, what's going on? I heard that taxi companies used to use tokens or something like that to give you the right to drive people. That's right. What they did, and they still do it here in New York City. Well, I don't live in New York City, but in New York City, a couple hours away, they limit the number of Ubers and taxis out on the road. They do it for congestion, but they also do it to keep that wage pretty high. I mean, the fares are, it's a lot more expensive to order an Uber in New York City than it is in Syracuse, where I live. Let's see here. Mike says, what should I make? $100 an hour. But the reality is not so. For a four-seater, I do above average, but all the BS Uber throws us, yeah, no doubt. Um, Jay Rohr, Joe Rory, how do you say that? Okay, he says Ohio median income is 69,000. See, that's my question, Joe, is should you, after you pay for everything, your expenses, should you bring home $69,000 in income as an Uber driver? And I think that that's true. I think so. RX says, you're lucky in my area before expenses. Uber pays about $23 an hour before expenses. Yep, no doubt. David says, do you think Uber or other apps should offer insurance? Who should they offer insurance? No, I don't think so. I would like to be able to jump between apps. And I think the more that these apps offer us as benefits, the more we transition from being a contractor to an employee. Um, I just want money from these apps. I want more than enough money to cover my expenses and things like that. Let me. Oh, John. Oh, okay. There you go. What's going on, John? All right, there you go. Yeah, I know Ride Upstate. I forgot that. That's right. That's right, John. Good to see you. Yeah, if you guys want to get my attention, I like the way John did that. He mentioned me. That helps a lot. I can see it on my chat up there. All right. Here's my solution for how much should an Uber driver make. Now, let's say the median income to do well in America is 75,000 for whatever reason. So you'd have to make more than 75,000, whatever that turns out to be hourly or per ride or whatever it is. I think we should be able to put our costs into these apps. Now, the way I break it down is I look at it on a per mile basis. So I total up my fuel costs, electricity. Now I'm driving the Prius for a little while, but fuel costs. Then I do the estimated maintenance on my car. Like if I'm going to keep the car for 300,000 miles, how much total in maintenance do I have to do for oil changes and excuse me, excuse me, ooh, things like that, and then depreciation on the vehicle. So I total it all up, and I come up with roughly 30 cents per mile in my Tesla and about 20 something cents per mile in my Prius to drive those cars. So when Uber sends me a fare, they should show me how much I'm going to make per hour after my expenses, right? And they could that math is all there. That's why I like, by the way, that's why I like Gig U. Gig U is a sponsor of this channel and it does it all for me. So with Gig U, I just tell them, they have a calculator to help you figure out your cost per mile. And then every time a fare comes in, it just gives me a red, yellow, green based upon the profitability. And I love that. So I recommend you guys take a look at that. But I think the apps should be um, demonstrating to the driver that you're making more than a certain wage. Now, here's a challenge. Uber can't guarantee me rides, right? That's a challenge. I have across the street, I have them doing construction across the street. So if you hear that noise, sorry about that. Um, yeah. So what do you think? Let me jump into the chat, see what we got here. So the question today is a moral question. It's not how much can an Uber driver make or how much do you make? How much should? It's a moral question. Should somebody who's driving humans around in our cities, how much should they make? Do you guys know? Alex says, do you know roughly what expenses per mile average you're getting at 30 miles per gallon? I don't know that one. See, Lisa, bless you. Well, bless you too. Thank you so much, Lisa. Current pay is okay if they reimburse for all of our expenses. I like that. I'd say $1.17 per mile and 25 cents per minute with a three. I'm not sure how you calculate that, but okay. Um, it depends on the car that you drive, cost insurance, right? And that's what I'm saying. So John makes a good point. It depends on your cost, and that's why we should be able to just load our costs into the app. We should be able to tell the app, "Here's our costs. Make it whatever we want." So when a ride comes in, we clearly know how much we're getting paid after our costs. See here. Mike says, rather than what should you make, it should be adjusted to the rate of inflation, sort of like cola. All right, I appreciate that. Yeah. But let's face it, transparency issue is not so acute that we will never get a fair shake. That's true. The app is designed to run up your miles or your mileage. I don't know if the app is designed to do that, but I think the app, I think it just works out that way that we do get run up our miles. I did 70 something thousand miles last year and I brought home little over $80,000 in revenue. So yeah, to make money, you have to drive a lot of miles. At least where I live. I live out in the middle of the country. We got 25 people here in the chat. Let me see if I can ask that question in the group chat here. Let's see here. Start a poll. All right, here, watch this. Let's see if I can type this in here. Should Uber drivers make the median wage in America? There you go. It's pretty should. Yes, no. Start poll. So there you go. I got a poll. I like to see you guys start to vote. Vote on this right now. Go to the chat and vote on it. Let me know. I want to see how many votes we can get. Should Uber drivers make the median wage in America? Yes or no? Why? So it's basically instead of saying Uber drivers and us questioning should we go work at McDonald's or be an Uber driver, we can challenge ourselves to see, is it ethical, moral? Is it good for society to have people driving cars with humans in them? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Let's see here, Erica. Mike, when I first started 10 and a half years ago, wow, Mike's been in the business a little while. I was getting 235 a mile and 35 cents a minute with tons of surge. And here's another question, only on active hours, of course. But again, the problem with active hours, David, is this. Imagine going to work 40 hours a week as an Uber driver. You're sitting in your car ready for a ride. When that ride comes in, you get paid 35, $40 an hour or whatever after expenses. But if you only have 10 active hours, then it's still not a median wage. And let me throw another twist to this. We make tips. I made $180, something like that last week in tips. It's good. Tips are a big part of how we make money. And instead of looking at it as a bonus, should that be part of our living wage? Let's take a look here. Mike says, yeah, sure, why not? The reality is different. That's true. We're not talking about reality. We're talking in the world of shoulds. So we've got 12 votes. It looks like yes is a pretty good answer here. RX, I don't think they should make the median wage because it's a no skill job, but they should be able to make at least $40,000 a year after expenses or 40 for 40 hours a week. Well, you're talking about it from a skill job. There's a couple of different ways that we can look at wages in America. There's skills, like a brain surgeon or an NFL quarterback. They're going to make a lot of money because it's a high skill job, whatever, versus an Uber driver. And so I think you're making a good point, RX. But that's not necessarily the issue with jobs. You get paid a lot of money for jobs that are low skill, but they're also kind of like crappy jobs. So I'll give you a good example. One of my previous clients in another life, they did drain repairs, basically plumbing. Now they didn't do plumbing work like plumbers. They would just basically stick poles and suction things down pipes to clean out poop. They got paid a lot of money because nobody wants to deal with poop. And the same thing is true with Uber drivers. Nobody wants to deal with the drunk, but late at night, we're dealing with drunk people and people who are inebriated and stuff like that. So there's skills, and then there's kind of like dealing with crap. But here's another thing. How about supply and demand? You know, the issue is with, let's see here. Uber keeps texting me. Let's take a look at Uber for a second. Let's take a look at the chat here. Let me open up the Uber app. I think Uber's giving me. I'm gonna go to my Uber phone here. I think there's a lot of like reservations going on right now. Let's see here. It's that time of year where I got to start paying attention to reservations. I stopped doing that as the school semester kind of comes in here. Let's see here. Do we have a lot of reservations coming in here? Reservations, yes, reservations. Well, they're all whatever. None of them are really that good. Who cares? Yeah, I'm gonna want to do $15 for 1 hour's worth of work on a reservation to two people that are rated 4.7 something. Get the heck out of here, Uber. Let's go. Let me go back out to the chat here. Lisa, the tips are huge. Yeah, they are, Lisa. If you don't, Eric says that if you don't have private clients for Uber, don't bother. Yeah, but there's a legality issue there. Not a lot of drivers are insured, and it's not legal in a lot. Like it's not legal for me in New York if I don't have livery plates to do that. One legged says he lives or she lives near a military base. Which base is it? It seems Uber continues to pigeonhole me to the bases, 15 miles to pick up and 3 mile rides for $9. I reject anything under $1 a mile. My dad was stationed at Randolph, and I went through basic training at Lackland. So is that the base you're talking about? Let's see here. We got Mike. Eric says plumbers are making more than doctors. Exactly. Eric, you make a great point here. Plumbers are making more than doctors, and it's not because of skill. I would I would say that there are doctors, the training and the difficulty becoming a doctor is much more difficult than to be a plumber, but it's a shortage. It's a supply and demand thing. So we're talking about how much. Yeah, Uber's texting me. Yeah, yeah, you're right, Mike. They're like, "What are you doing? What are you live streaming? Don't be talking about money to people." Um, some of you guys have said that Uber watches my content. I think they watch. I think Uber pays attention to Sergio, the rideshare guy, but I don't think Uber pays attention to me. I'm way too small for that, by the way. um, okay, so there's a skill. People with jobs that require more skill should get paid more. And so, yes, driving a car technically is not that. Then there's a supply and demand. The reason why plumbers are making so much more is because of that. Then there's the crap aspect of the job. Like again, one of my client that cleaned the poop out of people's drains. It's not a very difficult job in terms of skill set, but it's a crap job, and nobody wants to be around poop all day. Um, then you've got oh, I had one other one, but there's one other thing that probably controls our wage: supply and demand, the crap of the job, the skill of the job. The reason why there's surges is supply and demand, right? There's not enough drivers out there, and we want to find those zones. Oh, that's what it was. Safety and good for society. We want people to make more money if they're doing things that are risky for society. For example, did you guys see that United Airlines plane that nicked the top of that semi truck coming in for landing? What the hell? you know, you got two, you got a pilot flying a plane, and it's like, how dangerous is that, right? Yeah, David, you saw that, right? That's right. So go through another job. Here you go. Do we want do we like semi truck drivers, people driving 10, 20-ton vehicles at high rates of speed on barely any sleep on our highways? No, we don't. But they've made the pay for driving a semi truck so low that people are risking not only their own personal health and safety, but the safety of all of us on the roads. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So, what are the four criteria that we're talking about for wage? There's skill. And yeah, Uber driving is not a high skill job. Then there's supply and demand, and that fluctuates, right? Sometimes there's not a lot of drivers and there's a lot of surges, and we make kind of good money. Then you've got the safety issue, and then you got the crap aspect of it. That's why an Uber driver in a blizzard at late at night driving drunks around is gonna make more money than a driver on a Tuesday in the middle of the day when it's nice weather is not gonna make as much. Let's see here. RX says, in terms of supply and demand, there will be a higher supply of drivers if Uber pays a median wage after expenses. Why wouldn't anyone who makes less than median quit and just drive? Well, that's a good question because there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of people that don't want to be an Uber driver because they don't like putting up with people. You and I have done this before. It's not, I'll tell you a story. This weekend, I went to a fraternity. They're having what they call darties, day parties. Right now, because college is about to end, all the students are graduating and heading off or whatever. So all the fraternities and sororities were having parties and stuff like that during the middle of the day. And I pulled up to this fraternity. and it was a guy and a girl. The girl had like a helmet on, and she looked sopping wet. And I pull up and I'm like, "Are you wet?" And she's like, "No, no, 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 I'm not wet." And I'm like, I felt like just canceling and moving on. But honestly, it was paying me pretty good, and it was a short ride. And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, dummy Levi here." And so I said, I don't know, you look wet." She goes, "I am not wet. I'm not wet." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Well, come on in." She gets in, and I could smell the beer. So I think she was covered in beer. She wasn't sloppy wet. Like it wasn't dripping off of her. It just looked like her clothes. So maybe she had dried out to some extent, right? So I only had to take her and her boyfriend, like, I don't know, a quarter mile. It was a 3-minute ride. So we get to the place, and they, as soon as we pull up, I look back and she opens the door to get out, and I look, and there's a puddle, a small little puddle, but the seat was wet now. And I look at her and I'm like, "You're a liar." That's what I did. I did that grandfatherly, fatherly kind of like scolding. "You're a liar. You could have just been honest with me. I could have laid a towel down. I could have did something." And she's like, "I'll tip you. I'll tip you in the app." And she did. She tipped me $15. But I didn't need the money. The money, I mean, $15 tip is nice, but it's just the that's what I'm saying. There's crap aspects to doing this job. Now I could have canceled, right? Now what if I canceled? I had a very high paying fare, a $15 fare. Now it ended up being 30 with the tip for, I don't know, a 3-minute ride. It was a great profitable trip. But if I drove there and canceled, I lost the surge, and then I wouldn't make any money. It cost me money to do that. So I had to make this compromise, this stupid whatever. So, but yeah, we get paid not only for our skill set. There's not much skill in driving a car, the safety, the supply and demand, and then of course putting up with crap. Mike says no drunks. Yeah, no kidding. People are getting Eric says people are getting cheaper at not tipping at airports. Mike says I should have canceled. Yeah, but see, I didn't. There's a thing. $15 tip. I cleaned the car in about, I don't know, I keep cleaning supplies with me. So I wiped the seat down, I sprayed deodorant in the car, and then I just told, not deodorant, but air freshener in the car. And I just told the next passenger, "Hey, the previous people were at a Darty." And it was easy peasy. One Leggett says Randolph, Lackland, Fort Sam Houston, Camp Bullis. I don't know anything about that. All right. I found that low paid service workers tip and doctors do not. Yeah, that is so true. Harpy, Sing, what's going on? Why can't we all ask for fair share? Is that sometimes Uber me giving me 30% to drivers? All right. So Harpy, you ask a good question. Or Harpreet Singh. That's Indian, right? Harpreet Singh. Why can't we get a fair share? Okay. I'll be honest with you guys. For the most part, I don't care how much of a percentage of the fare that I get. So if a passenger pays 20, I don't care if I get paid 15, 10, or 5. What I look at is the 15, 10, or 5 worth my time? Because I can't see that information before I pick up the passenger. So what do I care? I just see how much I'm gonna get paid, and then I'm like, "Is it worth it to me? Yes or no?" Now there's a downside. I'm not saying it's perfect. If Uber or Lyft or whatever, DoorDash, take more and more of the fees, then in the long run, yeah, it's gonna be bad for us. But in the short run, as long as the ride is really profitable, I just don't care. Um, see here, David says it's because airport rides are so expensive for riders. They pay way too. They sure do. One of the things I do, just as a quick note, when it comes to that, is when they're like jackhammering over there. I don't know. Can you guys hear that? The jackhammering. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Notes says, by the way, says Levi live. You can also say Levi evil. Did you know EVIL, right? So live and evil and Levi are all anagrams there. Um, but When I know my passengers, I assume my passengers pay a lot of money for a ride. I acknowledge it. When they get in the car, I'll even if it's just an Uber X and we're going to the airport, I'll say something like, "Hey, I know you paid a lot for this ride, and I appreciate that. Um, what do you want on the radio? Do you need anything? I want to make it as pleasant for you as possible." I think just letting them know and acknowledge that they paid a lot of money for the ride, I think it just helps. Because the goal for me is to get a tip. So, uh, Vile, that's right, Vile. Vile, Levi, Evil, Live. Yeah, I got a lot of things like that. Yeah. And then, people also call me Levy instead of Levi. Levy Spears, they'll say, instead of Levi Spires. See what we got here. I'm going to go back to the chat. I like this here. I like connecting with you guys like this. I want to do more live streams. What other live streams can I do? Let me know. This is fun. All right. Says, oh, I can't say your name, but 1709 says, Did you ever have a passenger falsely rate you one to get a free credit from Uber?" Yes. Last year on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, it was after New Year's Eve. I'd worked overnight and then I picked up a mom, and I just say it was a mom because I can't remember the trip, but I know it was a mom. And she said, complained to Lyft that my car smelled like beer. Now, granted, it was like 5 in the morning on New Year's morning, so I'd been working the whole night shift. I imagine my car probably did smell like alcohol or beer, but she said that I had been drinking and driving is what she said. That's what it was. So Lyft turned me off of the app for, I think, 5 or 6 hours, and I couldn't drive for Lyft for 5 or 6 hours. But then, it 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 worked out for me. Oh, right now I am a perfect 5-star driver. I have all 5 stars, not a 4-star, not a 3-star, not a 1-star in there, both with Uber and Lyft. So I've done a pretty good job lately. Um, let's see here. Let me go back out to the chat here. At that point, $30 doesn't sound that much at all. Yeah, no doubt. What do you want on the radio? Do you want a shiatsu? Heck yeah. Dude, I would do anything for a tip. I'm telling you what, I guess I wouldn't give a shiatsu because I don't know how to do that. But if a passenger handed me $5, imagine the scenario where a passenger gets in the car and it says, "Here's $5." I would rob a bank with them. I would, I would do any. Yeah, let's go. You want me to go 100 miles an hour? Let's do it. There's like something to the I don't know, the respect of just handing me money that pays that makes things, oh, it's so funny. Let's see here. Harpy says, Do you work for Uber corporate? You don't seem to care about the percentage or share the drivers get. It matters how much people pay and how much is just distributed." No, I don't work for Uber corporate. No, I don't. Yes, you're right. I don't seem to care about the percentage, the share that drivers get, at least on a ride to ride basis. I don't care. If I'm going to get paid $30 on a ride and I'm happy with it, I don't care how much the passenger paid. But to your point, Heartbeat or Heartbeat, if I say that correctly, um, I think in the long run it matters because the reason why it does matter how overall how much the passenger pays because we probably get less tips. So I don't really care how much the passenger pays on an individual ride basis, but on a grand scale, I do. So I don't know if that makes any sense or not. TDA, what's going on? Thank you so much for being a member. I really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Um, I used to hand out laminated 4-leaf clovers to find the most interesting passengers. Man, it would cheer them up, and they would always tip. I did too. I have these things right here. I did this thing here. Watch this. Let's see here. Oh, I don't have it here. It's not here. This is not part of it. But when I worked college campuses a lot, I would hand out stickers to Uber passengers. I'd let them just pick through my thing. See, I had a little thing and it sat right on the armrest of the car. And I would be like, "Oh, you're going to go take a test? Here, good luck." There you go. And yeah, that would definitely get $1 or $2 tips. And again, it's just a nice thing. Is that legal to hand out stickers? I don't know. I don't know if that's what you're asking, Eric. Uh, B Carb says, "Hi or hey Levi, I recently got deactivated from Uber for a falsified report. Do you have an idea what I should do next?" God, that's I do not have a good answer. Let me give you three things that I would think about. If you want to get back on the app, I would reach out to the rideshare professor. He's got some sort of legal thing that he does. Um, I would reach out to him. The second thing is I would just move on with my life. I would see it as an omen, as God trying to tell me something like, Levi, you don't need to be an Uber driver anymore. And I would just move on with my life. That's not the right answer. That's not the best answer. Uber keeps texting me. Let's see here. I have a reservation tomorrow. That's what I'm thinking about. But yeah, it's just more reservations. I'm getting so many reservations here. Stanley, what's going on? Welcome. Thank you so much for being a member. Let's take a look here. So my question today is this. Let's go back into the kind of the idea of the live stream. What should an Uber driver make? A Lyft driver, someone that transports people. How much should they make? In the it's not how much can you make, how much do you make, or how much you don't make. Um, how much should you make? And this is after your expenses. So after you pay for all your bills, your fuel cost, all that kind of stuff, how much should you make? And I think the consensus that we kind of came up with earlier in the live stream, and I'm willing to hear some pushback here, is that drivers should make more than the median wage, not a household income, but at least the medium wage for a job because of a few things. We were talking about skills, safety, supply and demand, and the crapification. Yeah, let's agree that driving a car doesn't require a lot of unique skill. It requires skill, but most people can drive a car. That's not a big issue with pay. And supply and demand is kind of covered through whether we get rides or surges or things like that. But there are two things that drivers do that should require give us help us earn more money. Safety, safety for our passengers and safety for the people out there on the road. And then also on top of it, crapification, right? We have to put up with drunks driving late at night and things like that. And we don't want a bunch of people who are low on sleep, driving broken down cars out there risking things to make minimum wage on our streets. Drivers should make more. So that's kind of where we're at with that here. Let's see. Mike says, I don't hand out anything. He says, I do a Jedi mind trick on them to tip me. Okay. Um, you're lucky. I average. Okay. I see here. I'm trying to look. There's a lot of chat, so I'm trying to keep up with it here. See here. Many of the drivers I know, this is Mike says, have one time or another got tip jars robbed. Wow. I've never done a chip jar. This is the closest I got to a chip jar. And I had like a little envelope in here, um, or envelopes that are handed people and they had like a lucky penny and some stuff like that. Notes says, notes from the past says, Levi, I appreciate your channel. Can you talk about reserved rides? Oh, I've got so many of them right now lined up. That's so many of them right now. I have experimented and found that it tanks my acceptance rate. I'm on the app 30 minutes before the ride and it keeps sending me rides. Oh, yeah. I try to do reservation rides to get two places. So, like tomorrow, I have a reservation. Um, it's from Cortland to Ithaca because I want to go Uber drive down in Ithaca. So I have taken that one reservation to get me paid to get to the place I want to go Uber drive. So I kind of use Uber or reservations on bookends to get me two places and to get me from places. of my day. I try not to do any reservations in the middle of the day. In fact, if I see a reserved ride come in as an exclusive or some sort of trip radar, I just ignore them. Let's see here. B Carb says, "Thank you, Levi. I've been doing it for 7 years with a clean track record, 17,000 rides. That's epic. That is so good. I'm just behind you at 6 years and 15,000 rides. So way to go, man." Um, Juju says he's in the New York City mark. He's talking to RX. Let's see here. Driver Eddie. Oh, Driver Eddie, man. If you guys don't know, Driver Eddie is by far the best YouTuber and storyteller out there. And he's a person that I've basically tried to emulate with my content and storytelling. So, dude, Eddie, I love you, man. Thank you so much for all that you do for our community, man. He's the best YouTuber out there. So, wow, to get, I feel like, phew, that's so cool. Um, let's see here. We got Food Trader out there. Right back at you. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Okay. Juju says, I think it's tacky when drivers ask for tips. I don't and will never do it. Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about asking for tips? Is that a fair? Okay. Number one, I don't care what the passenger thinks of me. Yeah. By the way, John says, buy Driver Eddie's book. Yeah. I got a couple copies here. Hold on. Right here. Locally disrespected. Driver Eddie's book right here. Buy it. If you want a copy of it, um, I think you can go to his website, right? Go to his stuff. Yeah. Take a look at go to his YouTube channel. Take a look at there. Okay. Tips. Okay. Why do I care what the passenger thinks of me? I could care less. I don't care if they respect me, whatever. The goal of asking for a tip is that potentially, yeah, okay, let me go through it this way. First and foremost, you shouldn't be discussing tips or considering tips if you didn't earn a tip. By just doing your job, pulling up, person getting in your car and you driving to them to a place, that's not tip worthy. I'd even argue having a clean car is probably not tip worthy. Now, if you're starting to drive like a professional, i.e., a smooth driver, not weaving the car, not hitting the brakes hard or accelerating too much or whatever, that maybe kind of get into that. Loading luggage. I think waiting for a passenger, if the passenger makes you wait, is tip worthy. I think there are situations that you have earned a tip. Maybe they asked you for the best restaurant in town and you gave them some advice. Maybe you took a route that they asked for. I think I've done it before. I stop along the way. They'll say, like, hey, I want to pick up some cigarettes, man. Do you mind if you stop for 5 minutes or whatever? I don't care. I'll do that for a tip. Now, if I've done them a favor, stopped for them, taken a route that they've asked for, whatever it might be, well, I should ask for a tip. That's going above and beyond. And if you don't ask for a tip, you're probably not going to get it. The reason why a third, if not half of my passengers tip, and remember, I work a college town. I drive a lot of college students. I drive a lot of broke people going to work at McDonald's and they tip. And the reason why I think is because I asked for a tip. Now, here's how I do it. There's two ways to go about asking for a tip. So I'm ready for you to cheer me up in the chat up there. Go for it. Okay. If I didn't earn a tip, I just did my job. I still ask for a rating, a review. If I pull up and they're standing on the curb, they get in the car, we have a normal ride, whatever, I'll say something like, "It was nice meeting you. Hope you have a great day. And if you get a chance before you go about the rest of your day, it'd be great if you left me a rating." And a lot of times they'll be like, "Yeah, 5 stars, boss. You're 5 stars." And then life goes on. But I'm incentivizing them to go back into the app and hopefully they'll see the prompt to give me a tip, and that helps a little bit. But if they ask for a favor and I do that favor, like here's another one. Hey, can you turn the radio down? I'm going to jump on a call, and they're on a call and they're talking really loud, and I have to sit there in traffic listening to their call. I've done them a favor. I don't owe them that that professionalism, but I did that for them, and it's worth 1, 2, 3, $5 for that. And so I'll say something like this: if I've done them a favor and they've asked for that favor and I delivered on that promise, I'll say something like, "Hey, it would be great if you left me a review and a tip. I hope that conversation went really well, whatever that they're on or whatever it might be." Or, "Hey, remember I stopped for you? It'd be great if you left me a tip for that." I've earned it. I've earned it. So why would I shy away from that? That out of pride? I'm never gonna see these people ever again in my life out of pride. So, yes, I ask for tips if I've earned it, especially if they've asked for a favor. Now that's like let's just say that's 1 out of 20 rides. 1 out of 20. So if I do 20 rides in a day, maybe 1 ride a day I ask for a tip. So, Boston Matt, what's going on? Look at these legends everywhere. Hey, by the way, Matt is part of a crew of 3 that does a live stream on X every Monday at 7 p.m. East Coast time. It's called Drivers Coast to Coast. It's Chuck, Matt. Oh my gosh. Why am I always have like, Matt, I always get like 2 of the names. Like last time it was you and oh my gosh. Matt, help me out. Why am I forgetting the name here? It's you think I know it, but my brain was somewhere else. So I'm having a brain freeze. Names are really bad. Please don't tell her that I forgot. It's not Lisa. Lisa's the name on my mind. That's why not saying it, Matt. Oh my God, Matt, help me out. Lynn, that's right. Thank you. Lynn from North Carolina. Oh my God. I had Lisa on my brain and I didn't want to say it, Matt. Oh my God. But Drivers Coast to Coast, every Monday, 7 p.m. over on X. It's a great chance to just connect. And actually, I love the format because you can actually talk with other drivers. And Matt, Chuck, and Lynn, they have like a topic of the night that they want to talk about. It's really great. Check them out. It's the best. And I love you guys over. Thank you so much, Matt. But getting back to the tipping thing, let me know your thoughts. I said you should ask for a tip if you've earned it. If you've earned it. If they ask for a favor, that tip is a form of compensation for you for that favor. Again, you're on a trip, you picked up somebody at work, they work the night shift, and they're on their way home, and they want to stop at the gas station to pick up some cigarettes before they get home or whatever. And can you stop for a minute or 2? Sure, I'd love to. That's a tip. That's tip worthy. So, now I don't ask for a tip if I didn't earn it. If the ride was normal, and I'd say that's 95% of my rides where the person's standing out there on the curb, I pull up, they get in, blah, 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 I don't ask for a tip. But I think I could care less what they think about me. I don't I don't have that much level of pride in myself. I don't mind asking for a tip for payment for my pain and suffering having to wait at the gas station while they're in there getting their cigarettes. All right, let's see here. Let's go through some of the chats here. Matt, what's going on? Driver Eddie, I hope you're still out there, man. Thank you so much. Okay, so Stanley says my idea would be an average of 25 to okay, you're going back to the other chat here. We'll do that in a second here. I'll go back to that, Stanley. Stanley says, whenever I do rides to the airport, I always ask if they want to stop at a 7-Eleven or Wawa, of course. Yeah, that's smart. I totally agree. I if I have if I know I'm going to pick up at the airport a reservation and I Syracuse is such a small airport, so I can't don't think about it like anybody whoever's in Philly or Boston or whatever. Syracuse airport's super small. Um but I go to there's a gas station right across the street from the airport, a car wash. I'll go get my car washed. I pick up 2 bottles of water, and I have it ready for them. But I like that. Stopping at a Wawa is a great idea. I love that. Offering that to them. Hey, before you get into the airport and pay for all that expensive stuff, maybe pick it up at a Wawa. It's a really good idea. Mike, you make a great point. Tippers will tip, non-tippers will not. There's no upside to making a direct comment to getting tipped. The downside is a one-star rating for annoying them. Well, I've done 15,000 rides, all right? 15,000 rides. I've had 5 one-stars in my entire life. So, and I'm a perfect 5-star right now. So, I think maybe it's how you're asking it. And again, don't ask for a tip if you didn't earn a tip. But if they oh, here's another situation in which I ask for a tip. This happens about once a day. I pull up and they're like, "I'll be right there." I hate that. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate that. You're busy, you're getting all these rides, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have to stop and sit for 2, 3, 5 minutes and get paid, 15 cents a minute or whatever it is. It's horrible. It sucks. When they get into the car, I'll say something like, I'm trying to think, what would I say? Yeah, hey, no problem. I was able to wait for you. Hopefully everything's pretty good. And then we go, thank you so much for waiting. And then I take them to the place and then I'll ask for a tip. They they cost me money by me waiting for them. That's tip worthy. I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm glad you had a great ride or whatever it is. Hope you have a great night or whatever it might be. Don't forget to leave me a rating and or a tip for waiting. I really appreciate it. I think if you come across genuine, if you come across professional, then you're not putting somebody out by asking for a tip. You're not like, give me a tip. You're acknowledging the fact that you did them a favor. They made you wait. And so I'm not I I don't think you're gonna get a bunch of 1 stars for asking for a tip. Ooh, man, I love this. This is one of my favorite subjects. See here. Levi, you still going for diamond? No, I am back to blue. I did an event last on Friday night and it was surging and I was cherry picking $11 surges in a $3 bonus area. So let's see here. I am at 19%. There you go. There's my stats right there. Can you see that? Well, there you can see my desk. You can see if I hold it up there. All right. So let's go back to the main part of this chat here, what I was getting at. Oh God, I feel bad. I had Lisa on my brain. I have to tell Len I was gonna call her Lisa. Um, okay, let's see. What does driver Eddie say here? Driver Eddie says, if someone asks to stop at a Wawa or something, I say, I'm sorry. It really cuts into my hourly when I stop. I'm happy to do it, but you'll have to throw me a couple extra bucks. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. I love that. That's that tip is not some sort of generosity. It's compensation for your time. And again, like I'm never gonna see them ever again in my life. So I could care less what they think about me. I just don't. That's not true. I say I'm never gonna see them again. I see them all the time. I drive in a small area where I see the same people twice a week sometimes, but I still ask. Okay, you want to hear? All right, here's a mischievous thing that I've done. Here's a mischievous thing. This is really funny. I do drive in an area where I see same people over and over and over again. And if they don't tip me, then I see that ride come up again. Unless that ride's perfect, I'm not taking it. I do judge people based upon their tipping. I do. I do judge them. So I gave a ride. I'll give you an example. I gave a ride to a young man who I picked him up at work and he was going out to the country, like a 20-minute trip out in the middle of nowhere to go see his girlfriend. We had a great conversation. Nice guy. He was super, super nice guy. It was all great. Um, and then he said, like, I got you. I'll give you 5 stars. Now, that's nice of him, but he didn't tip me. The very next day, I saw a ride from that town, and that town, I'm telling you, is like it doesn't even have a stoplight. It's got one gas station, no stoplight, and I know that was him ordering that ride back to the same area. He went to his girlfriend's overnight. Who knows what he's up to? And then the next morning, he wanted to ride back to that work. So I saw that trip come in. And, as it's coming in, bling, bling, as the ride was coming in, I'm like, I'm 100% not driving out to go pick that dude up because he didn't tip me. So there's that. But here's another funny thing that I think about when it comes to tipping. If I did happen to get that guy again, You know what I would do? Even if he didn't tip me, but I remember the passenger, I would tell that passenger that 5 stars in the tip last time. That's what I say. So if oh, Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. That was really kind of you. But yeah. Um, yeah, if I see a passenger that I've given a ride to before, I almost always thank them for the 5 stars and the tip for the last ride. Um, even if they didn't tip me. Put that in their brain. Like, did I tip him last time? And sometimes I've gotten a tip out of him for that. This is all about making money, and and tips are a good way to make money. So that's those are some of my tipping things. Let me read Michael's comment here. Michael, thank you so much for the gift. I really appreciate it. He says, Uber gave me a free trial for the 50 trips or 1 month. Pro Gold gave me 5% more in trip offers. Do you think this offered me this to me that I'll accept more trips? I don't know. I've 5% is not that much money. Last week I made $1,000 in revenue. Let me see here. Let's see here. I'll look at my trip last week here. God, that's so funny. I tell people thank you for the tip, even if they didn't tip me. 1,000 and $86 in revenue last week. Not a very good week for me, but the pro perk was $38. $38 is like 1 hour of time. That's a full time. So is the Uber Gold worth it? Yeah, if you're not taking the worst rides on the planet to get it. But I don't know if that answers your question, Michael, if you even asked it as a question, but um, I don't know if Uber Pro Gold is worth it. Let's see here. I don't know how many, but probably less than 10 one-star ratings. Oh, out of your 22,000 rides? That's amazing. Great job, man. It sounds to me like you're a real pro. And I think that people um, probably tip you a lot because you're a pro driver. You're doing a really good job. Mike says, never ask directly. The reality is tips are not mandatory. Yeah, of course. Nobody said tips are mandatory. I would never say tips are mandatory, but you want to earn them, don't you? If you can't massage a tip out of them through a conversation, I guess you don't cut the mustard. That's true. I try to avoid that. I think one of the things that I think frustrates people, and the reason why we talk about tips being a negative thing to some extent is we're trying to guilt people into tipping. I don't like that at all. I don't like the idea of guilting somebody into a tip. The idea of like, oh, I only got paid $10 on this ride when you paid 30. That's oh my gosh. That's I try to avoid that. Um, can I borrow $50 more now, $100 each time, Uber Pro card? I don't know anything about the Uber Pro card, Michael. I wish I had a better answer for you. Do you ever pick up a passenger that started crying in your car uncontrollably? Oh my gosh. Can I tell you about that time I had a passenger do that? It was a girl and a guy, college students, got in my car, and it was middle of the day. It was like they were going to like lunch or something like that. And they were meeting friends at a restaurant for lunch. And the two of them, the guy and the girl, were friends. In fact, he was from another college, I believe. And the girl gets in my car and she's talking to me and she starts crying uncontrollably about a friend that committed suicide and a lot of just stuff like that. And she was clearly distraught. I think a little inebriated. I don't know if it was drugs or alcohol or something, combination of the two. But she wasn't well. She wasn't well at all. And the guy who was a friend of hers, when we got to the restaurant, he looked at me in the mirror and he's like, "Hey, can we just sit here for a second? Let her kind of straighten up before we get out." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." So as we're pulling in, we pull into the parking lot, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll park here for a couple of seconds or a minute or whatever, and let her kind of get her life back together before she gets out of the car and goes into the restaurant." But um, she couldn't get her act together. You know, just one more minute. And now I'm I'm a touchy-feely kinda guy. I feel for people. People say it's like empath or empathy or whatever. So when I have somebody crying in my car, I'm not gonna kick her out of the car. Um, it's just so I'm sitting there and the guy looks at me like she does this all the time. That was his kind of facial expression. Like she's a problem. And so the guy goes like this. He looks at me, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go inside the restaurant and just let our friends know that we're outside still." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And he goes and leaves this girl in my car. And he doesn't come back out. Now I've got this sobbing girl in my car. And she's just out of control. And now I got a problem. And I was like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" And I turn around to talk to her, because I'm a nice guy, and I turn around and look. This young woman was not fully dressed. One of her breasts had come out of her shirt, and I'm like, "What?" So I turn around and I look straight to the road, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what? What is going on?" So I'm freaking out because now I got this problem. So I'm like, "What am I gonna do?" So I look at the dash camera, and thankfully, shout out to Red Tiger, the dash camera was still recording. And the reason why I was worried about it recording was I don't want to be accused of anything. So now I've got this girl crying in my car, and I don't know what to do. I'm like, "What the heck? I can't literally turn around and talk to her." So I say, "Hold on 1 second," and I go in the restaurant, and I go, "Dude, go get that girl out of my car." And he's like, "Oh, dude, man, yeah, she's always got problems." I'm like, "Yeah, go get her." And I didn't describe the situation, um, but he walks out, and then he sees her in the back seat and notices, and I'm looking, I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "Dude, get her." He's like, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry about that, guys." He's like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Yeah." And so he opens the door. He's like, "Girl, put your boob back away," or some sort of thing. And I'm standing out there, not trying to make eye contact, not trying to look, you're trying to, have discretion. And he literally had to almost like help her get dressed and then pull her out of the car. And so I get back in my car, and here's what I noticed as I'm leaving. So she was dressed when she's out of the car. She's standing on the side of the, by the restaurant. As I drive away, he's going inside the restaurant, and she's sitting like at like a bench at the restaurant, sitting outside crying. Like he didn't even like take her inside the restaurant. Uh, there you go. There's a good story about somebody controlling or crying uncontrollable in my car. See, that's why we deserve more money as drivers. You know what I mean? It's like, people ask why drivers should make more money. The whole point of this live stream was is like, what should an Uber driver make? Not what could an Uber driver make, what can an Uber driver make, how much do Uber drivers make or anything like that. How much should we make? Because it's completely there's so much more to it. It's not a hard skill to be a driver, but there are safety concerns. We don't want a bunch of broke people in broke cars racing through our streets, driving humans in their cars. That's an unsafe situation. And we have to put up with crap like what I did with that young lady. And I'm sorry she felt that way, but how am I going to handle that? I need to get paid more to handle situations like that. And then of course, there's a supply and demand thing, and we make that money through surges and things like that. So driver Eddie says, "Hysterical girl exposed her in your car." I know, dude, it was crazy. That's not the only time people have been doing things in my car, of course. Imagine that looked like someone passing by. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that, dude. Oh my god, try to avoid that. As an older man working college towns, I try to avoid the college girl scene as much as possible. But it seems like once every weekend at about 2 or 3 in the morning, some girl gets in my car. She's all upset because he's snapping somebody else. If you're a Snapchatter, you know what I mean. And I just try to be a nice guy. I just try to be a nice guy. And no, I do not ask for a tip for being a therapist. If you've thought about that. See here. Lisa says, I've had circumstances like that. And the first thing I do is ask the person if they're safe. That's a good, see, Lisa, you're smart. Are they safe? That's a smart thing to say. Me, I'm just thinking about, please God, I don't want to be accused of anything. Um, and then because it'd be a sign where she couldn't feel comfortable, speak about it to the police hospital. Yeah, that's a smart thing to do, Lisa. You're a wiser person than me. Let's see what else we got here. David says, yeah, I had a rough ride the other day. Took a man to the hospital. His grandmother had passed. He wasn't sobbing, but it was rough. Thankfully, I had some tissues. Oh, over it on his phone. Okay, there you go. Smart. Drivers, Eddie says, dude, I feel you. I'm in my 30s and I feel that way. I feel comfortable talking to college. Dude, as you're 50, it gets worse, man. It totally gets worse. I have girls in my car that are younger than my daughter, right? Um, I'll tell you about another story. I'm waiting for my son to see if he's going to the airport. So I may have to cut this live stream short here in a little bit. But um I picked up a homeless guy. Let me tell you about this story. We all have stories, right? I picked up a homeless guy. Let's see here. Uber's texting me more rides. Let's see if there's a good reservation out there, right? We all like reservations. At least I do. I don't take too many of them anymore like I used to, but let's see here. That is not a good Uber ride. No thanks. Okay. Um, okay. I went to this homeless shelter. I do you remember back when Uber didn't tell you much about the ride? I got a ride. I didn't pay attention to much more than it was a ride. I didn't know how much I was gonna get paid. And when I pull up, it was a homeless shelter. And this woman comes out and she's like, "Can you wait a minute? Bob or whatever the guy's name is, he's gonna come to the car." I was like, "Okay, fine." And she handed him, he gets in the car and he was homeless, so he smells really bad. Um, and I hit start on the ride and she hands him a phone and she's trying to describe how to use the phone to him. And and I hit start on the ride and the map routes me like 2.5 hours south down into Pennsylvania. I'm taking a homeless guy 2.5 hours south to Pennsylvania. I'm like, where are we going? And I look at the lady and she's like, oh, his I laugh, but it's not funny at all. But it was like his son was in a car accident. He hadn't seen him for 10 years, but the hospital found this guy through next to kin, some sort of search or whatever. And I needed to race this man to the hospital because his son might die. And so I got this homeless man in my car. He has never used a smartphone. He's trying to contact the hospital, but we're going through the country. If you've ever driven through central Pennsylvania, through the upper Appalachia, it's not like there's a lot of cell connection there. And I'm trying to explain how to use a cell phone to this guy. We had to drive with the windows down because he was reeking. Oh, it was horrible, that smell. And I think to myself, like, I never knew what happened. Don't that's so he was sobbing and he was upset and you could tell him calling the hospital and they were asking him questions like, should we put an IV in your son? Or I don't know, whatever questions the hospital was asking. I don't, and you could, this guy is homeless. He's probably got problems of some kind, but I don't know what caused him to be homeless, but he hasn't seen his son in 10 years. And I'm hearing this all go on for the next 2 hours as we're going in and out of cell coverage through the upper Appalachia. We get to this place in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and he gets out of the car. And I don't know what happened. Did his son live? Did his son die? Did he stay homeless down in that place? Craziness. So I've had a lot of interesting stories like that. Um, we're coming up upon the end of this chat. I feel pretty good. What do you think? Do we cover what should Uber drivers make? We talked a little bit about tipping. Driver Eddie, Matt, a few other people, John, some other members of the channel joined. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so good. Michael, thank you for the gift, the $10 gift. I really appreciate it. Drivers, hey, What did you use to clean my car after that? I typically when you clean your car, you have to wipe the seats down. That's how you clean your car. When you have people that smell, I have cleaning solution like Armor All or something like that that I use to wipe the seats down, and then I have Ozium to spray it out, and then that's how I clean it out. And I clean my car 2 or 3 times a night. Even if the passenger doesn't stink, I still wipe the seats down as much as I can, and I wipe the armrest and the seat buckles and the seat belts down. Remember, they were wearing a seat belt, so if you don't wipe the seat belts down, the seat belts begin to stink. Thank you, Eric, for the W on the live stream. El Sancho is incorporating snack bags. Drivers, let me wrap this stream up here. For 2026, I want you guys to be safe, healthy, and happy. I want you to make as much money as possible. I really do, but I want you to enjoy the ride. Uber doesn't have to be this burden, this thing that we carry around. It can be a fun gig. I think all gig apps can be fun. Doesn't mean we should sacrifice our income for fun or anything like that, but it doesn't have to be hell on earth either. And so I'm trying to bring some sort of enjoyment back to the game this year for me. I know last year I got really, really upset about money that I was making and not money I was making or whatever. And I need to kind of get back to why I'm doing this, which is connecting with people like you, telling stories, making some money. So please be safe, healthy, and happy, and know that I am cheering for you. Be well. Take care, guys. Bye.